Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Yeah, we're back.
How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing good. It's been a blessed day, and really every day is a blessed day, no matter what the day holds. But I've had a good day. Hope you have as well.
Oh yeah,
it's always good to be back on the Southern Fried Podcast. We of course are on Facebook and YouTube. We now are featured on Rumble. A little bit different name, SF Podcasting for Southern Fried Podcast. So, but in the definition or whatever you want to call it, the header, it'll say Southern Fried Podcast. We have just about the same content that's here that is there. We're just getting it up to speed. It's only been a couple, 3 days, but we are expanding into other platforms. And so if you're a Rumble person, I like Rumble too. You can find us there. And just cross-pollinating across different things that people use. Some people, Rob, don't use the same thing. I mean, we're a diverse people, and we use diverse platforms. Also sharing these out on X and also Truth Social, but do not have a page there, but we do share those out. So, but it's good to be here. Always good to be back on the stage with you and ready to tackle new topics, old topics, whatever topics come our way. So we've got a good show for you tonight, I believe.
You know, we hadn't talked about manners in a while.
Yeah, we try to get all these in every week, and we're thankful to have quite a bit of programming. And just real quick before we go to manners, just this Sunday we featured scripture reading on Sunday morning. That came in, and our prayer episode, PT, prayer time. So, and this week, and also we featured, I remember that. That was a fun show. I really enjoyed that. And then, and be looking for Main Street, small town America businesses. We're working hard to try to get the first episode up of that. So we'll be looking for that in a few days. But yeah, manners is one that it's one of our mainstays. We're excited about that because we were raised to have manners. And we do notice when people don't have manners. So where did people learn most of their manners, Rob? Well, two places, really. You learned them at home, and you learned them at church. Most people went to church. I have went to church. Or I don't know about nowadays. I think I've heard those numbers are slipping, which is sad. But there are a lot of people in this country that go to church, and they know that when you go to church, you got to have manners. Now, kids are kids, and we're going to talk about things that happened in church they shouldn't have. And so we'll cover that in this episode of Manners, Southern Manners. Excited about that. And I've got my brain is full of things that I remember and little stories. But yeah, you learn manners at church. And I don't know about you, Rob, but when I went to church, everybody was your boss.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, my dad did withhold. Now, maybe it was different. My dad would say, I'll do the spanking if there's any spanking to be done. And I can tell you that he never had to spank me much, although I did get a few. He never had to do that at church. I didn't get in trouble at church, but there was one time at a family reunion, somebody was going to pull me up and lay the wood, and he said, "No, you're not. That's my boy." So he could, I didn't want his spanking, but he ended up not spanking me either because he didn't agree with what it was. You ever been caught up on those? Before we go into the manners of church, I want to ask this question, Rob. It just pops in my head, and I think it fits. I mean, we're talking Southern things, but isn't it? And the reason I thought that was because of that story I was thinking of. But there's an injustice that goes on sometimes when you're growing up, and that injustice is well, if two kids are going to get a spanking, then everybody gets a spanking because it's fair. There's people I've heard say that.
Yeah.
And, I understand if you're all guilty, but if you're not guilty, why should you get a spanking? So that was the scenario. And
Oh,
someone in my family said, well, he was here and I was a little bitty thing. I mean, I was really young, a lot younger than the ones who were going to get the spanking. So their daddy said, you're getting a spanking too. And I was a very shy kid, but I can remember saying, I had always had respect, but I said, you're not spanking me. And boy, that made him mad. And I said, go get my daddy. Go get my daddy. And he came. And so he laid it all out like, well, this is my boys are in trouble. He had three boys. And your boy was here, and I'm going to spank them all. My daddy said, you're not spanking my boy. If there's any spanking to be done, I'll do it. And
and
then he heard the thing, and he said, I'm not spanking him. You can spank your boys if you want, but he's not getting a spanking. So
and there was another act of injustice that I had to face as a kid. If you went to a friend's house and y'all got in trouble, they spanked you. Okay.
yeah,
They go to a friend's house and I get a spanking. When you come home, you get another spanking because you misbehaved out in public. That's not fair. That's double punishment.
well, my
And so,
dad did always say, yeah, if you get in trouble out, when you come home, you're going to get in trouble again. So that was his way of saying, don't get in trouble when you're away from home.
yeah,
Not that I
my,
could get in trouble at home, but my dad would say, I'd rather you get in trouble here than go out somewhere and act up and get in trouble there. But there was no out on that because I couldn't act up at home either. Not that I wanted to, but,
yeah.
um, but yeah. So when I was thinking of that, and a church is a lot like that. I mean, small rural churches. I mean, everybody tells everybody what they can do, what they can't do. So you didn't have to just watch your parents. You had everybody else with the eye on you. So we're going to talk about a few of those. There's actually quite a few. We'll get through some of them and talk about some things that happened that you better not do, but did. And I can share a couple from really not when I was little, but I think with my kids. A couple things that one of them did, and it wasn't funny at the time, but we laugh about it now. But yeah. So Rob, you went to church and you were to be on your best behavior. That's what I was always told. You better be on your best behavior.
For
So
some
what
of
did that
us, that
mean?
was
So, so what
good.
does it mean? Your best, I mean, I don't know. Is it my best? I knew what it meant. It meant don't do anything that will get the wrath of God to come down upon your rear end.
Yeah.
Um, so we could say it's a given, no talking in church, right?
Well, you can
Now,
say amen.
well, yeah, you could, but honestly, they would say no talking. Now,
Okay.
adults can talk. You would see them whispering, you know, but you couldn't do that either. So no talking, no whispering, which in
Yeah.
some cases, whispering could be at times could be defined as bad too, but in another way, because whispering was considered to be you're hiding something.
Yeah.
And what were y'all talking about? What was you whispering about anyway? So I would kids would be questioned. What is so important that you've got to whisper to your cousin or to your friend while church is going on? You're supposed to be paying attention to the preacher. That's what you heard. So no talking. So that's kind of hard for a kid, especially if you were an active kid with an active mouth and um yeah uh you had this. It seemed forever, right? Because you had Sunday. Well, in Sunday school you could talk because you go to your class. But when you got in the main service, you was at least an hour, at least, if not an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. So you could sing. Certainly, you were expected to sing, right? So we had you can't talk or whisper, but you better be singing. They figured if you were singing, that kept you out of trouble.
Yeah. I think the other big thing that you couldn't do was laugh. Nothing could really be funny to the kids. Now the adults
Yeah.
could laugh, but the kids were And see, I didn't go with my family. I walked up the road here and went to church. I went by myself, and I had family there, and a lot of people just claimed me as family. But I was there. I didn't have nobody really to correct me, but I knew if it got back to my grandma and grandpa that I had acted up, I didn't want to
Oh
take that
yeah,
chance.
yeah.
No,
Laughter would be a big no-no. The problem is there's to a kid, well, adults too, but especially to a kid, there can be things that happen in church that gets you tickle box turned over, as you say, you giggle box, you laugh, you start, trying to hold it in, and then you're looking at each other, and just looking at each other, you're laughing. Now it could be, I mean, like we said, somebody could trip, over something. I mean, that we just said if somebody fall down, they're not hurt. We'd find that funny as adults.
yeah,
Well, as a kid, somebody trips going up the steps to the platform or coming down or made a loud noise.
oh yeah,
Um, you know, I mean, and hey, not being disrespectful here or nothing like that. It's normal human function.
yes,
But in church, if someone accidentally passed gas, there's no way kids could not get tickled
no.
at that.
And there's no way on those hard pews that anybody was going to hide it if they broke wind. There's no way. But
And over the years, I have seen that happen a few times,
yeah. And preachers a lot of times cause these disruptions, not meaning to. One of the ones that sticks out in my head, I was 15 or 16 years old. They were having revival at the church down here. I'm not going to call any names or anything, but we had a guest speaker in, and he was up there just preaching away, and he was preaching on men being men and the women being women, and just really getting into it. And I mean, he was, almost a good hellfire brimstone message. I mean, he was into this message, and he said, "Yeah, I remember when real men didn't wear pink." And I cut my eyes over, and our deacon, who was one of our deacons, who was a rather large man, had on a very, very bright pink shirt. Now, I was sitting in the back row, and everybody heard me go, I held it in, but I snorted big time, and it just reverberated throughout the room. And he kind of went, like he was up there, he kind of went back at me. And I got so tickled that he got tickled about it. So here's me and both of us just laughing away. That wasn't our fault though. That was preacher's fault.
Yeah. And if you think about it, kids laughing, there's levels and degrees to that. If, like, say kids are singing in front of the church, one of them hits the wrong note, sings the wrong word, and all of a sudden they're all kind of messed up. Well, if they're over the age of, we'll say, 8 or 9, if they're 8 or 9 and up, then people kind of give them that look like, okay, that's enough. But if they're under that age, it's funny to people, and the adults in the room will laugh at it. It's cute, they
Yeah.
would say, because they're so young, they don't really understand, but the older ones do. So when you crossed over into that new world, you're supposed to understand that could be tough because you kind of got one foot in this. Well, it was funny. I used to be able to laugh at it, and y'all laughed with me. To this now, I'm getting like my dad's giving me that look like burls 2 holes through me from his eyes. They look like they were a flame, and you stood at this awkward attention anyway. I mean, it looked like you were robots because your parents were staring you down like, okay, let's just get through this. No goofing off now. So, you stood, and that was a whole nother level of fear anyway, standing in front of the church, everybody looking at you. And I always tell people if for people that have never went to the front of the church and stood there to do anything, whether it's to make an announcement, sing a song, preach a sermon, whatever, you cannot tell, you really can't understand how nervous that makes you with everybody's looking at you. And some people may not bother them, but most people it does. And so for kids, that's a huge thing. And sometimes they're not laughing to be disrespectful. They're laughing out of nervousness. They're
Oh,
so wound tight that, but once it starts, then it kind of, you have to rein it in, you know. But yeah,
yeah.
laughter is a no-no unless everybody's laughing, but you're not sure if you're a kid. Well, here's another one for you, Rob. Now, I've had to ask people before because, you know, we'd have those that would come to church that would be known, you know, they loved all the kids. You know, hey, let's be honest here. We ain't saying names. There are some people, either they just forgot what it's like to be a kid, or maybe they just never liked kids. Just be honest, even in church, there are some people that look at kids like they're an alien creature that's came into the church. You know, they just don't really engage them. They don't, you know,
Yeah.
they get no mercy. In other words, you know that type of person I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
But on the flip side of that, there's the people, usually an older lady or something, and she
Oh no.
loves the kids, and she brings candy and chewing gum and bubble gum, and she loads the kids up with all this sugar before the service even starts. So you
I
got
thought you.
kids bouncing off the wall, and or they're chomping on bubble gum. And
I thought you were going to say have somebody back there that pokes the bear and gets them all fired up and gets them to puts them up to stuff. That'd be me. But
well, that may
poor old
happen
lady
too.
with the
But
candy and the sugar, yeah, that's a bad thing too.
so yeah, you know, I'll just say, you know, and being careful here, very, very careful. I love kids, I really do, and you know, some people, most parents really know how to take care of their kids, and I'm not rigid like that. And some people, you know, I know if there's something, you know, if a kid's really, if a baby's crying on and on and on and on, you take them out and deal with them. But
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with kids, you know, as long as parents are not letting them just do whatever. I can preach loud enough to preach over them. You know, we don't have children's church. We have kids in church. I mean, and I'm not speaking against those that do that, but we never had that when I was growing up. And so you know, there's been times I had to, right in the middle of a sermon, I would, you know, get attention to my wife, or I'd call them out myself because they did something I didn't care for. But, you know, there's that lady or gentleman, they get them all, you know, hopped up on that, the sugar high, and then they really are bouncing off the walls, and it's hard to be still. And some kids, that can really be rough. But, so you have to find a way to, and one time what I said is, hey, give them all that. Just do it after the service. I mean, you know, these kids are like wound up, you know, kind of like you do when you take a kid back to somebody and you stop on the way and buy them an ice cream and something that's just loaded with sugar. And by the time they get out of the car, I mean, they're like a caged animal. You know, I won't say I haven't done that before. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but hey, I have
Hey,
done that
yeah.
before.
Uh,
So,
let me put a thought out there for you on this
all
topic
right.
here. I kind of view it a little bit differently, I think, than what you do. Um, I love the sound of children laughing.
Oh,
It
I do
makes me
too.
happy. Uh, and going back into the Bible, you know, Jesus talks about, or it talks about in the Bible, the little children were just drawn to him. I mean, they came to Jesus, and Jesus loved every one of them. And you don't think he didn't put up some of the same issues you're having to put up with? It
Well,
didn't bother him none.
he probably
It
did,
didn't.
but
You let them kids have fun in church. If they get a little rambunctious, then mom and daddy generally pretty good about calming them down if they get too rambunctious.
that,
But
but
let me say hallelujah. If the adults were doing it, you'd be happy and thinking you're doing a good job.
I'm going to have to throw you another one there to consider, though, that what Jesus didn't have to deal with.
Okay.
Jesus didn't have a deacon board. That didn't come along till later.
You know what? You know what? Julio, that deacon board. You let them youngins get up in there and jump up and down. If them deacons was jumping up and down, you'd be doing a good job. You know, you're doing a good job for them youngins. You let them jump up and down a little bit. You know, Tell them, say, hey, look, if you
We
need to
love.
burn that candy, that sugar energy you got, stand right in front of your pew. You jump up, down, shout hallelujah, let me preach.
We
Let them
love
go.
our we love all of our deacons, but I did have to throw that in there. He didn't have to deal with the deacon board. But let me give you another one. It's a huge no-no, and I just might have a little experience dealing with it. That would
Okay.
be the kid crawling under the pews all around the church.
Now that is annoying.
And I bet you did it when you were a kid.
If I did, I don't remember it. That was one I didn't do. I'll tell you about me coming home with 2 black eyes later on.
But every once in a while there'd be a kid, and I might have one that did that. I won't say his name, Joshua, that did that. And he got to crawl. He got away from his mama. I was always sitting at the front. She would sit back with some of the ladies and stuff. And the kids sometimes would sit with me, but they liked to sit with her because they didn't like my rules. And not that she didn't have rules, but mine were stricter. I was
Yes.
up in that. I was up in that amen corner, with the spits flying and all that. So they would come up there sometimes, but Jeremy usually didn't, but Josh did. But Josh got away from her and was crawling under the pews, I guess, to get away from her. But he got intercepted by one of the men in the church. I heard somebody say, "Hey, boy."
Where you going?
Yeah. And he got onto him, and I'm sitting there like, oh, boy, it had to be my kid.
It had to be mine. At first, you have that
And,
glimmer of hope.
and you know what? I was a deacon.
Yeah. But at first, you have that glimmer of hope. Maybe it's not mine.
Yeah. Well, really in our church, small church, it was really one or two boys. So it was him. And so I dealt with that later. But yeah, crawling around under the pews would not be a good one,
Yeah.
to do. I have seen it didn't happen but once. Didn't happen but once. It wasn't mine. It wasn't mine. But kids who thought it was funny, since you're going to make me sing, we're going to sing really loud, almost to the point of yelling it out. I've seen that before. That's a big no-no too, because now you're hollering, almost screeching the song out, and that'll get you in trouble real fast in church. To be singing really, really loud. Another thing you have to. Your parents would say, if you got to go to the bathroom, go before the service, because kids, once one starts going, they all got to go.
Yeah.
As soon as one,
Well,
they figure that's a way to get where they can go and get away for a minute. So they don't got to go to the bathroom. They just say, I got to go to the bathroom, And once you start that, or they think they can go as a group, which you don't allow either. But that's another one. There was this church, and I don't remember where it was at. It's somewhere in the region. And I remember their bathrooms, though. This stopped a lot of it. Their bathrooms, the way the church was designed, was you had to go past the pulpit and all that around the side. Like some churches, they have the Sunday schools rooms and stuff back there. But this one, the church was that way, and so the church was built. The bathrooms were back there, so they had to go by everybody to go to the bathroom. Not many people wanted to do that, because in the back you can kind of slip out a little bit, But yeah, going to the bathroom too much, that's bad manners in church for children. Hey, we'll get to adults here in a minute. We're just talking about the kids, but there are several things that, as we're discipling kids, we're teaching them, we're training them,
yes.
and they are a blessing. I love to hear the laughter. Love to watch them grow in the Lord and all that stuff. But yeah, I'll tell you another one nowadays, and it happens in probably in just about every church service. Somebody forgets to turn their cell phone down, and it's playing something crazy, not just a normal ring. They've got some crazy ringtone that is just hollering something out, or it's some crazy music or something. That happens too. Bad manners.
Another thing that I imagine happens, and this probably ain't just children, but you'll look up from the pulpit and you'll be expecting to read a scripture in the Bible, and you'll see this right here. How many times you done that? Or seen that? I bet it's more than one.
Yeah.
But that's not just kids. That's grown-ups too. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was there was one time. It was funny. It was Sunday school, and it was my wife and her mom, who, bless her soul, we just love her to death. She came to church with us, sitting in Sunday school, and she had been in she'd been T-boned, and when that wreck happened, her airbag went off, and it was a violent wreck, and it damaged her hearing. So for the rest of her life, you have to talk loud to her and stuff. Well, they were sitting over from me. They weren't sitting right with me, and there was, of course, he had a Sunday school teacher, but there was a guy he was reading a portion of the Sunday school lesson out for the, I think maybe he was answering a question. And all of a sudden, my mother-in-law's phone goes off, and she has it turned really loud so she can hear it. Well, it's down in her big old purse. She had this big old purse. Well, she didn't even hear it go off. And so, I mean, everybody here, by the way, at the end of this, everybody's laughing. So first of all, I hear my wife trying to say quietly, but louder, because your phone's going off. She's like, what? Your phone's going off. My phone? You want my phone? So you have this interaction. Everybody's like, and the whole time the phone is ringing, ringing. And so she finally, the phone. So she gets in there. She thinks she just wants her phone. So she's digging around. It takes her forever trying to find it. Well, she finally finds it. She goes, hey, my phone's going off. And the whole time that this is going on, the gentleman that's reading or whatever he's doing, he never stopped. He just kept going. And right near the end of it, the last ring or two before she got it cut off, he stopped reading. He finally heard it, and he stops reading and looks up and he goes, somebody's phone's going off. And at that point, the whole Sunday school class was laughing. I mean, it was hilarious. But you get those kind of things, and but yeah, manners would be that you cut your phone down, and if it's an emergency, we understand. I have had people say, if I get up and leave, I'm waiting on a very important phone call. Somebody's in the hospital. We understand that. Nobody has a problem with that. But yeah, you got to have good manners in church, and you got to watch your phones. Yep. So that's another one.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we kind of ixnay this one? We've got on the kids a little bit. Let's come back, get on the adults a little bit. Let's talk about the adult manners. That sounds like fun to me, because that's going, wait, I don't know if I'm going to talk about this or not. It might get me thrown under the bus.
Yeah, we can make that a part 2 of this, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about adults. But that's good, pretty good coverage on the kids,
All right. Well, hope y'all have enjoyed our little thing on church manners on our Manners podcast today. Love you guys. God bless you. Hope y'all have a great week, and we're going to air this thing out on Monday, I think.
On Monday, sounds good. That'd be tomorrow, or today if you're listening to it.
Yeah. You have to bring that up. All right. Well, we love every one of y'all. Hey, like and follow, and we'll see y'all soon.
Well, once again, it's time, my friends, for another meet and greet. We're Southern Fried and nationwide, so hang on to your seat. Look around, here's what I found. I guess you'll never know what you'll see on the Southern Fried Podcast Show. Yeehaw!